Right, so in the last video we added some text and it seemed like it was working and we were happy with it, but we've got this orange warning and it says, in fact, where's my little pop-up just came back. So if we look at the warning, it says hard-coded string segue application should, it went away too fast, should use this @ string resource. So let's talk about what that string resource is. And as programmers, we should know that anything that is hard-coded is maybe not the best way to handle things. So let's just dive in and see what it is we're talking about. And you can also click on this and see the same error message. So hard-coded text. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our resource file. So remember, we drilled down to the res resource file, and we looked in layout for our activity main layout, so the first layout that we created. So if we click on the values drop down, we're going to have this strings.xml file. So I'm going to double click on that and we're going to open it up. So an XML file looks very much like an HTML file, except all of the tags are user defined, as opposed to HTML you have to use the particular HTML tags that are provided to you. So this is a way for the program to keep track of strings. So this is sort of like a global variable, if you will. And the idea here is if we store the information we want to use as our text in this file, that way we can not hard code it. If we need to make a change, we can come into the strings and XML file instead. So there's different ways that we can do this. If you're comfortable writing in XML, you can just edit the string here or write the new string here. So we're going to start kind of paying attention to XML, but I'm not quite comfortable with it yet. It feels a little weird still. So we're going to click on this open editor, and this will help us write that XML. In other words, let's create, we have to have, like everything else, a key value pair. So let's create a key. Oh, I have to hit the plus sign. I'm clicking down here and nothing's happening. We have to hit the plus sign, and we're going to create the key of, what will our key be? We'll do text title. We'll have it just match. We'll have it match the ID that we created before. And kind of the same thing, I'm thinking if I put the word text in front, that I know that this is referring to a title. So we're going to give it segue application. Okay. And if let's just do one more while we're in here. So I'm going to go back into plus sign, and I'm also going to create one for the button. So I'm going to create a button rent, and the default value will be rent a segue. Okay, perfect. So it looks like we have, so this is a way to edit it, or we can look back in our XML file. So let's close out our translation editor, our tab right here. And now we see those XML entries made on our behalf. Name, text title, name. So there's our key value pairs. And like I said, you can do this manually here if you want, or you use your editor. All right, so I'm going to close out my XML file. And I'm going to go back into the activity main. And now we'll kind of try and figure out, why are you unhappy? Okay, so what it wants is, let me see this little oval icon to the right of our field here. I'm going to click on that. And now it's going to say, well, which of those strings XML entries do you want to use? And so we did text title. So I'm going to click on text title, and I'm going to click on OK. And now what you should see is, notice how it changed now to @string. So it's referencing that string XML and the ID that we gave it. And that's, I'm going to hit enter. And when I hit enter, it updated my segue application to what I have in my XML file. So let's address the button then. So I'm going to come into the buttons, and I'm going to click on button. I'm going to drag a button onto my activity here. There we go. Things are running pretty slow for me this morning. So notice again, we've got orange, the hard-coded button in. I'm going to select, pick a resource, or, and we could do it just like we did before, or I also happen to know or remember I'm going to do the @ symbol, and now you have a choice down of all of the key value pairs that are in that XML file are available right here. So I can also do it this way, add string, button rent. So don't forget, when we create a new widget, let's immediately give it an ID. So I'm going to give this a button rent. Okay, and it's going to say, oh, do you want me to refactor this? So it will look for whatever references we would have had to the prior ID and update it if we don't have any, but that's just the way it comes up. So if I had some prior, for example, it was called button 2. Let me be clear. It was called button 2 by default. So now, or button 1, whatever. So now I'm refactoring it. I want to change it. So I'm going to change it to button rent. And the refactor then will look to see if I have any other associated code with button 2, and it will refactor or change that on my behalf. So if I had some Java code that was already written for button 2, then it'll update it all to button rent. That's what this is telling you. So yeah, I want to do that. But get into the habit of creating your ID sooner rather than later, so that way you have a meaningful ID that you can access in your Java code. All right, so now we have strings XML taken care of. We have string resources, so it's better to use that rather than hard coding those values here in our attributes. But now it looks like I've got a nasty red uh-oh, and so that's talking about a constraint for our button, and we will talk about constraints in the next video.